Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing very well. So in today's video I wanted to show you 3 different cute crochet ideas. These are all really quick and easy and are great Christmas presents if you are looking for something to make very last minute. So let's get into it. So for the AirPods bag I'm going to be using all cotton yarn and it's all around 4 ply weight. So I used the Drops Paris yarn for this, and then I've also got a bit of yarn from Hobby. This is the Friends Cotton 8/6 yarn, and then this white yarn is the Pegasus cotton yarn, but it's all around the same weight. So obviously for this design I used a light pink, and then I used a dark pink, and then a dark green, and then white for the strap. For the design that I'm going to be making, I'm going to use yellow as my main colour, and then I'm going to keep the Rosebud colour the same and also the white strap, so I'm only swapping out the baby pink for the yellow. You'll also need a 2.5mm hook, some scissors, some embroidery thread, and this is optional but you might want to use some sort of bead for the Rosebud. I'm just using this like pearl bead, and then you'll also need a large needle for kind of sewing the ends in, and you're also going to be needing a stitch marker as well. For this bookmark design I'm going to just be swapping out the main colour, which was yellow, for lilac. Again, this is also from Hobby. It's the 8/6 Friends cotton yarn. I just have some scrap here, and then I've also got some of this kind of brighter pink that is also from Drops. It's the Paris yarn, and I'm going to link all of the yarn colours down below so that it makes it a lot easier if you did want to use the same yarn as I am. And for the pet collar I'm going to be swapping out the baby pink for this blue yarn. This is the Friends Cotton 8/6 yarn from Hobby. So starting off with the AirPods bag, the design that I am making will fit both a AirPods 3rd generation and AirPods Pro 2nd generation, so just keep that in mind. The bag measures across roughly 2.5 inches and 2 inches in height, so it will fit both perfectly. However, you may need to do less chains if you are going to be making a case for a smaller size AirPods case. So I'm starting off with a slip knot with my main colour, and I'm going to make a chain of 14. Once you have your chain of 14, you're going to flip the chain over so that you can see these back bumps, and we're going to make 3 single crochets into the second back bump. So here's the first back bump, here's the second, and I'm going to make 3 single crochets into that second back bump. Okay, and then I'm going to make 1 single crochet into each back bump all the way across, and into that very last back bump I'm going to make another 3 single crochets. So just starting off with 1 in each stitch, and then once I get to the last back bump I'm going to make 3. So I've just done my last 3 single crochets, and now I'm going to kind of tilt the work around so we are working on the stitches on the other side. So I'm not turning the work, I'm just going to be rotating it so that we can now work on the other side, and the 3 single crochets allows us to naturally do that anyway. So for this side I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch. So I'm going into that first stitch on the other side, and I'm going to weave that tail in. I'm going to make a single crochet, and I'm making 1 in each stitch. Once I've reached the end of the round, I'm going to be placing my stitch marker into that very last single crochet that we made. Okay, and then from round 2 all the way up to round 12 we are just going to be doing rows and rows of single crochet. So I'm going into that first single crochet that we made, ignoring that turning chain, and I'm just making 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. Okay, so now I'm just going to replace the stitch marker back into that same stitch, and and I'm going to start my next round just making one single crochet into each stitch, and I'm going to repeat that all the way up to row 12. So I will meet you back after I've finished row 12 and then I will show you the next step. So I finished my 12th round and then I've just fastened off. I didn't chain one, I just cut the yarn. And now I'm going to place the yarn on my needle. I'm going to turn the work kind of onto the inside, and I'm going to go into the next sort of horizontal line of the next stitch. So as you can see, this is the next stitch, and when I turn the work over, here is that horizontal line of that next stitch, and I'm just going to place my needle through that line and pull through, and then I'm going to go into the horizontal line of the previous stitch. Just to kind of weave that end in. And then I'm just going to pick up a loop below and I'm going to make a knot going through that loop to make a knot. Then I'm just going to weave that end in to the inside of the work. Okay, so this is what we have so far, and we're now going to work on the strap. So you're going to want to take your main colour and make a slip knot, and you're going to attach it to one side of the bag, it doesn't matter which side, so just roughly the middle stitch on the side of the bag. So I'm going to go right here, I'm going to place the slip knot through that stitch and then chain one to attach it. Okay, and then I'm going to make a chain of 40. Okay, so once you have your chain of 40, you're just going to want to make sure that the chain is straight and it's not twisted. And then you're going to slip stitch into kind of the middle stitch on the other side. Like that. And then we're going to turn the work around so that we can see the back bumps. And I'm going to slip stitch into that next back bump that I see. Like the slip stitch. And then I'm going to slip stitch into each back bump all the way across. Okay, and then once you have done all of your slip stitches, you're just going to slip stitch back into that first stitch of the last row we did of the bag, just to attach everything, and then I'm going to chain one and cut the yarn, and then I'm just going to weave the tails into the inside of the bag. So I'm now going to be working on the bag strap, so I'm going to attach my yarn sort of in the centre of the middle of the bag, so sort of roughly about here, and I'm going to take my white yarn and make a slip knot, and I'm going to attach it to that point that we marked through, and then just chain one to attach it, and then I'm going to chain 20, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the exact same stitch that we've just attached the yarn into. So I'm going to chain 20, so you're going to want to make sure that none of your chains are twisted, and I'm going to slip stitch into that exact same stitch like that. So this is what it should be looking like, and then I'm just going to chain one and fasten off, and I'm going to weave these tails into the inside of the bag. So we're now going to be making the rows. I'm going to take my dark pink yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to make a chain of 13. So for this rows we're going to be working into the chains normally, we're not going to flip the chains over and work in the back bumps. So I'm going to start off with 1/2 double crochet into the second chain from the hook, and then I'm going to make a treble crochet into the next chain, and then a half double crochet into the next chain, and then a slip stitch into the next stitch, chain, sorry. Okay, so that is our sequence so far, and then I'm going to repeat that all the way along. So half double crochet, treble crochet, half double crochet, slip stitch. Okay, so you should have something like this. It's kind of like a 3 bump kind of situation, and you're going to want to make sure that you've got your needle handy. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a long tail. So I'm just going to pull the yarn through. I'm not going to fasten off or anything like that. And then I'm just going to weave this short tail in on the wrong side. So I'm going to flip it over and just weave this tail in. So we're going to be rolling it so that the right side is on the outside. So I'm going to take my needle and place it on the tail so that it's ready. I'm going to make sure that the wrong side is facing up and the right side is facing out, so that when we roll it, the right side is on the outside. And you're just going to want to tightly roll it towards you. Like this. And then once you get to the end, you're just going to kind of pinch it with your thumb and finger. And I'm just going to sew through both sides to kind of hold everything together. Okay, and then once you're happy with how everything is secure, you're going to want to make sure that the tail now sits right at the bottom of the rose. So I'm just going to kind of push it all the way down to the bottom like this, and then you're just going to leave the tail as it is. And at this point you're just going to want to sew your pearl onto the center if you want to, and then I will come back and I'll show you how to do the leaves. Okay, so I'm now going to make the leaves. You're going to want to take your green yarn and make a slip knot, and you're going to want to make a chain of 6. And now I'm just working into the normal chains, I'm not working into the back bumps. And I'm going to make a slip stitch into the second chain, and then a single crochet into the next chain, a double crochet into the next chain, a single crochet into the next chain, and a slip stitch into the last chain. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat that on the other side, so I'm going to kind of tilt the work so we can work on the opposite side. And I'm going to start off with a slip stitch, and then a single crochet into the next chain, and then a double crochet into the next chain, and then a single crochet into the next chain, and then lastly a slip stitch into that top last chain, like that. And then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. And then I'm just going to weave these tails in, and I'm going to make a second leaf, and I'm going to leave my second leaf with a long tail, and then I'm going to sew the innermost parts of the leaves together. So I will come back when I have finished that. So I've just sewn the leaves together, and now I'm going to make a knot at the back. So I'm just going in with my needle through a loop, and then pulling through and leaving a short loop, and then I'm just going to go through that loop and pull tight to make a knot. And then I'm just going to weave that end in a bit. And now we're going to be attaching the rose to the leaves, and I'm going to be attaching them at the same time that I attach the rose to the bag. So I'm going to take the pink tail on my sewing needle, and I'm going to go through the centre of the leaves with the pink tail, like that, and then pull through. And then I'm going to go through sort of the top middle part of the bag there and pull through, and then I'm going to go back through the bag like this, back up through the leaves, and then through the rows again. Pull that all the way through. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat that again, so I'm going to go down the rows, down through the leaves, and then down into the bag. I'm just going to repeat that a few more times until it is all secure. And then once it is all secure, I'm just going to knot through a loop on the inside of the bag, and then just weave that end in. And that is your AirPods bag all complete. Okay, and then you would just fold the strap over the whole Rosebud. That. So that is the final result. So we're now going to be working on the jam jar bookmark, and for my main colour, which over here is yellow, I'm going to be using purple. So I'm going to start off with a slip knot. So I'm going to start off with a slip knot and a chain of 25. So once you have your chain of 25, you're going to flip the chains over, and we're going to be working in the back bumps, and I'm going to make one single crochet into that second back bump from the hook, and then I'm going to make one single crochet into each back bump all the way across the row. Okay, so for the next round I'm going to chain 1 and turn the work, and I'm going to skip the first stitch, and I'm going to make a single crochet into the next stitch, and I'm going to make a single crochet into each stitch across, and then I will be stopping once I have 2 stitches left in the row. Okay, so I now have 2 stitches left in my row. I'm going to skip the next stitch and make a single crochet into that last stitch. So what we have done for row 2 is we have skipped 2 stitches, which means that we have decreased 2 stitches from our row, so you should now have 22 stitches in your row. We're now going to be repeating row 2 all the way up to row 13. So just as a recap, we're going to chain 1, turn the work, we're going to skip that first stitch and make a single crochet into the second stitch, and then we'll single crochet all the way across until there are 2 stitches left, and then once you have your 2 stitches left, you will skip the second to last stitch and just make a single crochet into the last stitch. So I will come back at row 13. So I've just finished row 13. You should have 1 stitch where you just did a single crochet in your final row, and now I'm just going to fasten off. So I'm just going to chain 1 and cut the yarn. You should have like this triangle shape, and I'm just going to be making a second one of these, so I'm going to be repeating the steps from row 1 to 13, and then I will meet you back and I will show you the next step. Okay, so I have my 2 triangles and I've lined them up on top of each other with the right sides on the outside, and now I'm going to be joining the pieces together with my white yarn. So I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to attach this into the bottom corner of the triangle. So just kind of finding a stitch in the corner, and I'm inserting the hook through both panels, and then I'm going to pull the slip knot through and chain 1. Okay, and then I'm going to make 1 single crochet into sort of the next space of the triangle at the front, and the next space of the triangle at the back, and I'm going to weave these ends in as I go. And again into the next space of the triangle at the front, and the next space of the triangle at the back, and make a single crochet. and I'm just continuing this all the way up along the side, and then I'm going to continue it all the way down this side, and then I will stop here and I will show you the next step after I've reached the other corner. So I've done all of my single crochets along this edge, crocheting both panels together, and now I've reached the other corner, and at this point I'm just going to continue making single crochets but only across the edge, so I'm not joining the bottom section together, just crocheting single crochets across here, and then I'm going to go around and onto the other side, and then I will be joining back at this corner here. Okay, so once I reach the end, I'm just going to make my single crochet into where we attached the yarn, and then I will just continue going around the other side. So I'm just going into that first stitch over here, and then I'm going into each stitch all the way across. Okay, and then once you have reached back at the first corner again, you are just going to slip stitch into sort of a corner stitch like that, and then chain one and fasten off, and then you're just going to want to weave this end in. So we're now going to be working on these frills around the edge. So I'm going to take my baby pink yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to attach it into the corner, so any corner, doesn't really matter where, along the bottom though, so not on the edges, you want to do it along the bottom, and then just chain one to attach it. Okay, and then I'm going to be repeating this sequence all the way around. So into the next stitch I'm going to make 1/2 double crochet and then a double crochet, both into the same stitch. And then into the next stitch I'm going to make a double crochet and then a 1/2 double crochet. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch. And that is going to be the sequence. So into the next stitch, a 1/2 double crochet and a double crochet. And then into the next stitch, a double crochet and a 1/2 double crochet, and then into the next stitch, a slip stitch. So I'm going to repeat that sequence all the way around the edge, continuing onto the back as well, and then you're just going to want to slip stitch into the first stitch, chain one, fasten off, and then weave the ends in. So I'm now going to be working on the jam jar, so I'm going to take my bright pink colour and I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to start with a chain of 8. Okay, once you have your chain of 8, you're going to want to single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then single crochet into each back bump across. Okay, and then once you get to the end of the row, you're just going to turn the work and you're going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch, and I'm just going to weave this end in as I go. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn the work and repeat the same thing, 1 single crochet into each stitch, and I'm going to repeat that until I have finished row 7. So I will meet you back at row 7. So I'm just about to do my last single crochet for row 7, and I've got my white yarn ready to change colour. So I'm going to single crochet, so I'm going to insert the hook into that last stitch, and as I'm about to make my single crochet, instead of yarning over and pulling through both loops with the pink, I'm going to pull through the 2 loops with my white yarn, like like that, and just pull tight on the pink string. And for row 8 I'm going to turn the work, and I'm going to make my first single crochet into that second stitch. So I'm skipping the first stitch, making a single crochet into the second stitch, but I'm going to make it in the back loop. So I'm only picking up that back loop and making my single crochet, and then I'm going to make one single crochet into the next 3 stitches, and then you should have 2 stitches left. So I'm just going into the back loop of the next 3 stitches and making my single crochet, and then for my final single crochet I'm skipping the next stitch and I'm making my single crochet into the back loop of that very last stitch. So that's what it should be looking like. For row 8 I'm going to turn the work, and I'm going to skip the first stitch, and I'm going to make a single crochet into that second stitch, like that, and then I'm going to single crochet into the next, and then I'm going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches, then I'm going to skip the next stitch and single crochet into that very last stitch. Okay, and then for the final row I'm just going to turn the work, and I'm going to make 5 slip stitches. So I'm just going to slip stitch into the first stitch, and then into the second, and then into the third, the fourth, and the fifth, like that. And then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. And then I'm just going to cut the pink yarn, and I'm going to weave the tail in for this white yarn as well. And then I'm going to take my white yarn and make a slip knot, and I'm going to insert the hook into that first front loop. So where we only single crocheted in that back loop for that row, we're now just going into these front loops across here. I'm going to join the yarn at that first front loop like that, and chain 1, and I'm going to make 3 single crochets into that same front loop. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then 3 into the next front loop. 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to continue making 3 single crochets into each front loop. Okay, and then once you have done that, I'm just going to slip stitch into sort of this side loop of the jam jar, like that, and then just chain 1 and fasten off. So this is what you should have now, and I'm just going to be weaving this end in, and then I will show you how to make the strawberry. So we're now going to be working on the strawberry. So we're going to take the baby pink yarn, and I'm going to make a slip knot, and then I'm going to make a chain of 4, and then I'm going to make a single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then a single crochet into each back bump all the way across. Okay, and then I'm going to turn the work, and I'm going to include this tail. I'm going to weave it in as I go, and I'm going to make a decrease. So I'm going to skip the first stitch and make a single crochet into that middle stitch, like that, and then single crochet into that last stitch. So you should now have 2 stitches in the row. And then I'm going to turn the work, and once again I'm going to decrease. So I'm going to skip the next stitch and just single crochet into that last stitch, like that, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off, and then I'm just going to cut this tail that I weaved into the work, and then I'm just going to weave this tail in. Okay, and then I'm going to sew on the strawberry leaves. So I'm going to take my dark green yarn, and I'm going to cut a tail, and then I'm going to knot one end and I'm going to place it on my sewing needle. And to make the leaves, we're going to be working from the back of the strawberry to the front, and we're going to grab that back loop of that middle stitch. So you should have the 3 stitches at the widest part of the strawberry at the top, and you want to go through the back loop of the middle stitch and pull through, so like this. And then you're going to want to go into the side, but sort of down a stitch, down a row, sorry. So you're kind of going diagonally, and you're going from the front to the back and pulling through. And then I'm going to repeat that, so I'm going to go into the back of the middle stitch, the back loop of it, back through there, pull through, and then I'm going to go back down into that place that we just went into, like that, just so it makes it a little bit thicker. And then I'm going to go back into the centre, so from the back to the front, and pull through, and then I'm going to go back, and then I'm going to go down a row into the centre of the strawberry. Pull through like this, and then I'm going to go back into the middle and pull through, and then back down into the center and pull through. So I'm basically doing like 2 wraparounds of the yarn for each leaf, just to make it kind of a little bit more thicker. And you always want to go back into the middle for your next when you start your next leaf. So I'm only going to do 3 leaves, and I'm going to just do my last one. So I'm going to go down a row and into the side, sort of diagonally like this, and then back to the middle and pull through, and then back down to the side and pull through. Okay, so that's what the leaves should be looking like. And then I'm just going to weave the ends in on the back. Like that, and then that is your strawberry all finished. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to sew the strawberry onto the front of this jam jar with my white embroidery thread, so that it's a little bit more invisible, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how we weave the ribbon in. Okay, so I've just weaved in that white tail as well that we did for the top of the jam jar, and now you're going to want to cut a short piece of the baby pink yarn and grab your hook, and then you're just going to insert your hook through the front of the frills, sort of in the center like this, and then also insert the hook into the back of the top of the jam jar, so like this. So you should have it inserted through both sides, and then you're going to pull through one side of the yarn like that. So just pull through one side, and then you're going to repeat that right next to it. So I'm going through kind of a stitch on this part of the frills, just sort of around the center at the front, and then again into the back of the jam jar like this, and then I'm going to pull through the other side of the ribbon or the yarn. So you should have something like this where the 2 strands are coming through, and then you're just basically going to want to tie a bow. Okay, so I've just tied the bow, and now with my white embroidery thread I'm just going to be sewing the jam jar on. I want it to be in line with the top of the bookmark, and then I will come back and I will show you the final result of the bookmark. We're now going to be working on the pet collar, and I'm going to include different sizes depending on what size dog you have. I made a collar that would fit a large dog, so my dog is a German Shepherd. The neck circumference of my dog was about 22 inches, which meant that according to my kind of size guide, I would be making a collar for a large dog. Each square is 1.75 inches in width. So you're going to want to measure your pet's neck circumference and then divide that measurement by 1.75, and that will give you roughly how many squares you need, so refer to the size guide. So for this collar I'm going to be substituting the pink yarn for blue, so I'm going to take my main colour and I'm going to be making blue and yellow squares. So I'm going to start off with my main colour and I'm going to make a slip knot like this, and then I'm going to make a chain of 3, and then I'm going to slip stitch into that 3rd chain, and then I'm going to make a chain of 4 like this, and then I'm going to make 3 double crochets into the center of this ring. So you're going to want to separate the yarn, and then I'm going to make my first double crochet into the center, and then you're going to want to chain 1 and make another 3 double crochets into the ring. 1, 2 and 3, chain 1 and make another 3 double crochets into the ring, and then chain 1, and once you have your 3 clusters of double crochets, you're going to just make 2 double crochets for your final cluster. So 1 and then 2. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the 3rd chain of the 4 chains. So 1, 2, 3. So it's this one right here. I'm going to make a slip stitch. Okay. So that is the end of round 1. Okay, so for the final round we're just going to chain 1, and then we're going to make 2 half double crochets into this corner gap. So right here, just going into the gap, we're going to make 2 half double crochets, and then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to make 2 more half double crochets in that same gap. Like that. And then you might have to pull back these stitches to reveal that first stitch, and we're just going to make 1 half double crochet into the next 3 double crochets here. So 1, 2 and 3, and then you should reach another corner gap. So we're going to make 2 half double crochets, a chain 1 and then 2 half double crochets. So 1 and 2, and then chain 1 and then 2 more, 1 and 2. We're then going to make 1 half double crochet into the next 3 double crochets, so pull back the stitches if you need to reveal that first double crochet. So 1 half double crochet, 2 and 3. Okay, and then you've reached another corner, so we're going to make another corner cluster, 2 half double crochets, a chain 1 and then 2 half double crochets. Okay, then pull back the stitches and then 3 half double crochets. And then the last corner cluster, 2 half double crochets, chain 1, 2 half double crochets. Okay, and then you're just going to make 2 half double crochets because we've only got 2 double crochets left, so just finish with 2 half double crochets, and then we're going to slip stitch into that first half double crochet that we made. Like that. And that is our solid square all done, and then you're just going to want to chain 1 and fasten off. Just pull the tail through, and then you can just cut that small tail that we made at the beginning. Okay. So this is what your solid square should be looking like. I'm going to make 12 squares in total. So I'm going to make 6 blue squares and then 6 yellow squares, and then I will come back and I'll show you how to attach them all. Okay, so I've finished making all of my squares, and now I'm going to show you how to join each one together. So I'm going to join mine all in an alternating pattern, so blue, yellow, all the way across. And you're going to want to take 2 of your squares and you're going to want to cut some string. I'm just going to cut the blue string. It doesn't matter which colour you do, and I'm going to place it on my needle. And then you want to make sure that you're folding them the right sides up on top of each other. So you should have the wrong sides on the outside, like this. And I'm going to be joining each square up the middle. And then I'm going to place another square here, and I'm going to join that one up the middle. So I'm going vertically all the way up, joining them vertically. So I'm going to lay the squares on top of each other like this, and then I'm going to kind of turn the work this way so that I'm going to be working vertically up the middle. And I'm going to kind of line them up, and I'm going to go into the back loop of the blue square in the corner and the front loop of the yellow square in the corner, like this. So the innermost loops, and then I'm going to pull through like that. And then I'm going to go into the next front loop of the yellow square and the next back loop of the blue square, like this, and then pull through. And then the next blue loop, innermost blue loop, and the next innermost yellow loop of the next section. So I'm kind of working in a snake motion all the way across. So I'm going into the next yellow loop on the inside and the next blue loop on the inside, and I'm pulling through, and I'm just going to do this all the way up. Okay, so that's what it should be looking like once you have joined them. And now I'm just going to create a knot kind of on the innermost loops just to join it. Just making a knot. And then I'm just going to weave the tail in. And then I'm just going to weave the part where we knotted the yarn into the blue square. Okay, so that's what it looks like when you have joined the squares together vertically, and I'm just going to continue that process, making attaching another square over here. So I'll attach a blue square next, and then a yellow square, and I'm going to attach all of the squares. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you have joined all of your squares together, and now I'm going to be doing a border row just of single crochet around the entire thing, and I'm going to be doing this in purple. So I'm going to take my purple yarn and make a slip knot, and I'm going to attach this into the corner of the first square. If you're right-handed, then you will be attaching it into the corner of the rightmost square. So right here, pull the slip knot through, and then chain one to attach it. And then I'm just going to make one single crochet across the entire row, and then once I get to the edge, I'm just going to continue to make one single crochet all the way around. So I'm just making my single crochets all the way across the square, and then as I reach one of the tails of each square, I'm just going to basically crochet in to the tail. So I'm including the tail in the single crochet just so I can weave that in. And I'm going all the way across, and then I'm going to go across into the next square and continue my single crochets. Again, weaving in the tail as I go. And I'm just going to continue this all the way along this edge, going around this last square, and then again along the bottom, and then back up this side. So I will meet you back once I get to this corner here, and then I will show you how to fasten off. Okay, so I had to switch to pink because I ran out of the purple yarn, but I just did the exact same thing, just single crocheting around the edge. And now I'm just going to slip stitch back into where we attached the yarn. And then I'm going to chain one and fasten off. Okay, and now I'm going to show you how we do the strap. So I'm going to take my strap colour, which I'm going to do white for this collar, and I'm going to make a slip knot. And then I'm just going to go into the bottom corner of the square, like the border of it, and I'm going to pull the yarn through and then chain one to attach it. And then we're going to make a decrease, so we're going to skip the next stitch and we're just going to single crochet into the following stitch, like that. And then we're going to single crochet across until we have these 2 stitches left. Okay, so I've got my 2 stitches left, and then I'm going to skip the next stitch and make a single crochet into that last stitch, like that. And then I'm going to turn the work, and I'm going to skip the first stitch and make a single crochet into the second stitch, and then I'm going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches, and then I'm going to skip the next stitch and single crochet into that last stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to turn the work again, and I'm going to skip the first stitch and make a single crochet into the second stitch, and then I'm going to skip the next stitch and make a single crochet into the last stitch. And then I'm going to turn the work, and I'm going to make a chain of 50. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of flip the chains, and I'm going to slip stitch into each back bump. So I'm going into the second back bump from the hook, and I'm going to make a slip stitch, and then I'm going to make a slip stitch into the next back bump and into the next, and I'm just going into each back bump all the way down. Okay, so now I've done all my slip stitches. I'm then going to make my final slip stitch into that second stitch in the row. And then I'll chain 1 and fasten off. And then I'm just going to weave these ends in, and I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side for the strap. So I'll be flipping the work over, and then I'll be starting again in the corner and then working across, making those decreases until I have 2 stitches left, and then chain 50 and slip stitch down the back bumps of the chain, and then slip stitch into that last stitch of the row, and then fasten off. So I'll come back when that is done, and then I'll show you the last step, which is the ruffles. Okay, so the final step of the collar is the ruffles. So you're going to want to start your ruffles along the bottom, so whichever way that is for you, it doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to start along the bottom here, and because I'm left-handed, I'm going to be obviously turning the work over to work on the bottom, and I'll be working in the left. If you're right-handed, you'll be working in the right side of the bottom. So I'm going to insert my hook into sort of the first stitch of the bottom, and then I'm going to pull my slip knot of my ruffle colour through, and then just chain 1 to attach it. And then we're going to be following a sequence all the way along this row. So the first stitch of the sequence is a double crochet, so I'm going to make a double crochet in the exact same stitch I just attached, and then into the second stitch I'm going to make 3 double crochets all in the same stitch. So that's 1, 2 and 3, and then I'm going to repeat that all the way across. So 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then 3 double crochets into the next stitch. So I'm going to repeat that sequence all the way across, and then when I meet you back over here, I'm just going to fasten off and weave in the ends, and then that is all finished. Okay, so I've just done my last 3 double crochets, and I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. Just pull the tail through, and then I'm literally just going to weave this end in, and then the collar is all finished. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.